Today, we're breaking down the 2026 Hormuz crisis. Now, this isn't just another conflict over oil. What we're seeing is a massive stress test for the world's great powers, and it's starting to reveal who really comes out on top when things get chaotic.
So let's set the scene. You're looking at the Strait of Hormuz, which is, without a doubt, the world's most important waterway. Think of it as the planet's energy artery. A huge chunk of the world's oil and gas has to squeeze through this tiny channel. Well, in early 2026, that artery got clamped shut. A series of attacks and a blockade by Iran have basically turned this critical choke point into an active war zone. And while the entire world is feeling the aftershocks, one superpower in particular finds itself, well, completely trapped. So let's dive into this, and we're going to start with the nation facing the most immediate danger: China. See, here's the thing. While the United States is basically energy independent these days, China's entire industrial engine is completely dependent on imported energy, and that makes them critically, dangerously exposed to what's happening at Hormuz. Just look at these numbers. We're talking about 40% of its oil imports and nearly a third of its absolutely vital liquefied natural gas now stuck behind this blockade. You can bet that in Beijing, they are scrambling. So what do you do in a situation like this? Well, it's triggered what you might call checkbook diplomacy. Beijing is throwing everything it has, every tool in its diplomatic and economic arsenal to try and get this strait reopened. It's a complex, four-part scramble for a solution. Okay, so their strategy has four main pillars, and it all starts with the one thing they know Tehran really, really cares about: money, the checkbook. So on the surface, China is calling for peace and stability, but behind the scenes, they're using what's called silent leverage. They're quietly reminding Iran, hey, we're your biggest customer, we are your economic lifeline. And what's their main goal here? It's to carve out a special green lane, a deal where only Chinese tankers get safe passage, while everyone else, well, they're left to fend for themselves in the chaos. And you want to talk about pressure? Look at this number. Having to replace that cheap, discounted oil from Iran with stuff from the open market is like slapping a giant energy tax on the entire Chinese economy. We're talking about an extra $18 million every single day.
And this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? This crisis is hitting China from every angle. It's not just about the oil supply. It's hitting their manufacturing, and it's damaging their image as this global peacekeeper. But look at that LNG line. Critical. That's not just about factories. When a third of your LNG is gone, you're talking about a potential threat to the entire power grid, keeping the lights on.
So this brings up a really important question, right? If China, their most important partner, is putting on this much pressure, why on earth isn't Iran backing down? What is going on here? All right, to get what's happening, we have to switch gears and look at this from Iran's point of view. Because to them, this isn't just about causing chaos for the sake of it. They believe they are caught in a survival loop, and this desperate gamble is their only way out. And here's the key to their whole strategy. It's what's called a discriminatory blockade. They're not trying to stop every ship, no. They're specifically targeting tankers heading to the West and its allies. At the same time, they're using their so-called ghost fleet, these are tankers with their trackers switched off, to sneak oil through to their one lifeline, China. And what's making all of this even more complicated is Iran's new, very hardline leadership. After his father's death, the new supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, basically feels that his only option is to keep things messy. As he put it, the strait must remain a tool of pressure. Why? He believes it's the only thing stopping a full-blown U.S. invasion. Okay, so we've got China panicking and Iran making this desperate gamble. But now we need to talk about the third player in this game. Because while all this is going on, there's one country that is quietly, structurally benefiting from all this chaos, and that's the United States. It's a concept known as the crisis dividend, and it's a huge shift. For decades, any crisis in the Middle East would send shockwaves through the U.S. economy. But today, the story is totally, completely different. And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? Because the U.S. is now the world's biggest energy producer. Its domestic prices stay low and stable. Look at that difference. This gives American industry a gigantic competitive edge, while their rivals in Europe and Asia are paying through the nose for the exact same energy. It's a classic story. When the world gets nervous, money runs for cover. And as you can see, while pretty much all markets are taking a hit, U.S. markets are holding up way better. American assets become this kind of fortress for global capital. And it doesn't stop there. The conflict itself actually fuels parts of the domestic economy. It's a real-world test for the latest military tech, and that drives a huge surge in defense spending. We're talking $154 billion, which pumps money right into the U.S. high-tech sector. It's no surprise major defense stocks are soaring.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? What this Hormuz crisis is really showing us is a deep, fundamental shift in how global power actually works. It really boils down to this. China's entire model, its entire power, is built on a world of stability, predictable trade, and cheap energy. But what we're learning is that America's power, in many ways, actually gets stronger from a messy, unstable world, a world that reinforces its dominance in energy, finance, and military might. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative question, doesn't it? In a world this fragile, could chaos actually be the ultimate competitive advantage? It's a thought that might just redefine what it means to be a superpower in the 21st century.